And Gary, it looks like it's correct. Red. Now right, on. Welcome, councillors. I declare the December meeting of the Warrandyte Council open. I have apologies from Councillors Walker, Councillor Brewer and Councillor Van Elbong. It completes comments. Someone happy to move those apologies. Councillor Jackson and Councillor Kinsey. With that, all those in favour, carried. Against. Move on to item 3 of our agenda, the confirmation of the minutes of our ordinary meeting held on the 27th of October. Someone happy to move those minutes? Councillor Jackson, secondly Councillor Whiteley. Councillor Jackson.
I commend the minutes as being true and correct.
Councillors, any comments, questions regarding the minutes of the 27th of October meeting, Council? Nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour, against, carried. Moving on to item 4, disclosure of interest. Any councillors have interest they need to disclose? Nil on the agenda. Nil received. Thank you. Item 5, there are minutes. There are none of those. Moving on to item 6, the reports of the committees. The first of those being the meeting of the Mannix Committee held on the 22nd of November. Someone happy to move those meeting? Councillor Jackson. Second, Councillor Bruce. Councillor Jackson.
I don't have any particular questions about these minutes.
Any further comments? Any questions regarding the meeting? The next meeting held on the 27th of October.
Mr. Mayor, I'm trying to keep in all the information about the flood damage stuff to just keep council informed of what's going on or changes. So particularly on page 5, starts to so the bottom of page 4 and page 5, we add in more information of how things are going every time.
Nothing further on the minutes of the Mannix meeting. Nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour, against, carried. Report of our committees. The second one of those being the Economic Development and Promotions Committee held on the 9th of November, moved by Councillor Garrett. Second, Councillor Bruce. Councillor Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So 2 recommendations here. The first recommendation is regarding the Economic Development Action Plan and Strategy. We're proposing the workshop we held to work on a new draft document. Part of the discussion was about the need to engage with key stakeholders who may be noted as having a supporting role for some of the actions under the plan, such as the Chamber of Commerce. Second recommendation at 5.3 is about the possible re-establishment of Destination Foreign Marshals stakeholder group. So if this recommendation is accepted, a meeting will be arranged with those key stakeholders as noted.
Thank you, Councillor Derrick. The important thing is that the single document being a Warrandyte Economic Development Strategy and Action Plan that becomes the one document. Councillor Derrick. Anything further on the recommendation coming out of the Economic Development Committee meeting? Being nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against, carried. Moving to the minutes of the meeting of the Warren Public Arts Committee. Councillor Jackson's happy to move that. Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Second. The second needs to be there, yes.
Oh, no.
Is it in this case?
No.
Doesn't matter?
No.
Okay.
We're moving the minutes, the recommendation,
as opposed to moving the recommendation as opposed to yes. So Councillor Bruce is happy to move that. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Mayor Quigley. I just want to, firstly, before talking about the recommendations, is to just acknowledge the outgoing chairperson, Councillor Walker, who stepped down for factors outside of her control. And I just want to commend her for her time, her commitment, and her leadership as chair of that committee. Item 5.1 in the recommendation, public art on private property mural. There are some leftover funds available to potentially do more work. Some members of the committee have come forward with some ideas. And in addition, we also have a member of the public with funds looking to potentially install a mural in Warren. It's the Rodale Horse Committee, and that's also something that the Public Arts Committee are looking at. We're in a stage of developing what that would be in order to bring it forward to council. And item 5.2 and 5.3 to do with the amenities blocks in Warren CBD and Lions Park. We didn't quite have all of the quality photos that we needed to complete those projects. So we did select quite a few. The public arts policy, which was developed before my time, has in it a requirement that you can't have a recognisable person in any image. That has stymied us somewhat because many of the better images do have people in them. You can see their faces. Some of them are images that are sufficiently blurred, if you want a better word, that you could, a good designer could blur the face out. But, so we're working through that at the moment. We have put it out there to get some more images, just a few more images if we could, particularly of the river scene. So I think that's probably it for an update on that. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Councillor Jackson, for assuming the role of chairperson of that committee. Appreciate that. Any further comments, questions regarding the minutes of and the recommendations coming out of the Public Arts Committee? Being nothing further, we'll put back. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Meeting of the Roads Committee held on the 16th of November. Someone happy to move those minutes and the recommendations? Thank you, Councillor Whiteley and Councillor Kinsey. Councillor Whiteley.
There, councillors, yeah, I put the minutes and the recommendations to the Roads Committee to you. Roads topical, as we're all aware of the damage on our roads. The two recommendations in front of you are that we develop a self-help program for local access roads. Because of the damage and the amount of damage and that landholders or accessories could do some minor repairs on council roads under the stipulation and plan that Sylvester, our engineer, is putting together, that it's to be done under notice and certain criteria to be adhered to. So that recommendation, the Roads Committee, after quite a bit of discussion and jumping through hoops, puts to council. The other recommendation was that we support the principle of carting grain on rail where possible. We put to council as well. The broader picture of our roads is something that council and monies from state and federal government, we will have prioritisation of where the most damage is, and the staff are all aware, and generally the council and the councillors are all aware of the damage to our extensive road network.
Thank you, Councillor Wiley. Councillor McCoskey.
Yeah, just a question for Mr. Mayor. Given I wasn't at the meeting, just on page 3, in the Infrastructure Betterment Fund grant, Brisbane Road 333, shoulder widening and pavement rehab from 64 to 76 kilometres. Wasn't there some work done just recently from what was the floodway at the back of going into Mount Foster, going towards Mundui? Is that not in that area there, or is it somewhere else?
Isn't there 2 kilometres and 2 kilometres that are all being reconstructed?
Yes.
You probably find it's in between and either side, on either side of that. Either side of that, isn't it?
Well, see, the last repair program, again, going back way, when finished at the floodway at the back of Mount Foster.
And we got 2
Then
kilometres.
when the previous management regime was here, there was some major works done from that floodway down towards Mundui, across the Scalded Flat and the floodway on the bend there before you get to Mundui. And I'm just wondering whether those changes, is that area still or again? Because 64 kilometres would nearly be that floodway at the back of Mount Foster.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to check. I'll get the chairman's.
Yep. Can we just check that, and we might just confirm that after morning tea, if that's possible? Yeah, Councillor McCoskey, just to be clear about exactly where that is, because...
Yeah, because I'm envisioning that that change is where some major work's already been done.
Yeah, I'm visualising exactly what you're saying, and I'm not too clear. Let's just be clear about it, and then we're all on the same page. Thank you.
I'm guessing that 62 and 64 are the segments.
Yeah, so that segment
Or
is
60
opposed to
and
kilometres.
62. No, it might be 60 and 62.
Yeah.
Which
Okay,
means
we'll
64.
sort it out, we'll get the details, and we'll just confirm that in post morning tea. That's acceptable to you. Councillor Wiley.
Apologies, Mr. Mayor, I did forget that the notes here that the Roads Committee suggested to staff to investigate with LLS especially with wet weather stock on roads and places and unfenced roads to come up with a policy.
We have usually an annual visit from the chair of the local land services, and I think we just need to make a note, if we might, that that's an issue we raised with the chairperson of the local land service. I think it's something we could also consider raising with the Minister for Agriculture. That's on there. Thank you. Sorry. Thank you, Councillor White. Councillor Kinsey.
It's not in this particular part of the paper, but it was trees on the side of the road, especially at Thunder Lane, was going to be deleted. It was done, allegedly. Well, from my observation the other day, it hadn't been done. There's mild trees on that corner. So they've been poisoned, Sylvester, or were they poisoned?
Mr. Mayor, is that a control Bogan Road?
Sorry?
Katunda Bogan Road, you're talking
Yeah,
about.
Thunder Road, yeah.
Yeah, and you're talking about just exactly where, just so we're on clear.
Well, actually, it's on a sweeping bend at George Gibson's Lane.
Yeah, I know, I can visualise what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. So, no, allegedly they were going to be, they had an extra, so they were allegedly done. Well, from my observation the other day, they're definitely not done. That's not
Might just confirm that. I wonder if, again, Councillor Kinsey, you might just confirm.
Yeah, excellent. All right.
Engineering services, and just explain exactly where you mean.
Yeah.
So that we can just, everyone's on the same page and just check that it's done. Yeah.
No problem.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor, anything further coming out of the minutes or recommendation of the Roads Committee? If nothing further, we'll put that all those in favour. Against carried. Minutes of the meeting with the Showdown Racecourse Committee on the 15th of November. Councillor Bruce, you're happy to move that. Second. Councillor Bruce.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. As you can see in the report, the equestrian arena is progressing. They have put extra drainage in for where that issue is with the holing over there. The misting pump has the shed's still to be installed. They check the misting pump. I don't know up to date whether the installer's been out to repair that. The sand's been ordered and to be installed and more to be stockpiled in the tanks. The exclusion fencing, Racing New South Wales is wanting a different type of fencing, which is costing a lot more money that you can see. So the Shire's sent quotation estimates to Racing New South Wales, and they're still having a big problem with the kangaroos. They had to stop and get someone to remove roos during the last race meeting. So they want, Racing New South Wales want this fence up ASAP. The cattle yards, that is still ongoing. The original design that went in with the quote for this budget was very undervalued, and as you can see, it's going to cost a lot more money to try and do these yards, so that's still ongoing. So the big issue is the letter that came from Racing New South Wales with issues with crossing that's past the winning posts that the horse users are using to go for the centre arena. And so the council and the racing committee and the users are going to have a look at what they can do to ongoing with that problem. And the Shire have put together a checklist that's pre-race, race day and post-races for the curator, so that with the meetings in the future, so that everything's ticked off properly for the races. So I think that's, and then manager of town services showed us this new plan on a new toilet block, and we put a recommendation that that the ladies' toilet area is demolished and rebuilt with a combined female and male toilets with showers, and those showers actually could possibly be used by the jockeys during race meetings if they ever start renovating the bottom part of the complex there, so there would be showers available for them. It is a budget issue. There was talk about putting it over near the male toilets, but the male toilets have to be demolished as well. The whole infrastructure needs a lot of work. So this is the report that this is the budget still needs a bit put into it, but this would be the better option to make a new facility with this diagram. So anyway, I think that's about it. So if anyone's got any questions? Yep.
Mr Mayor, budget-wise, we think it's going to cost about $410,000. We think there's with a bit of contingency.
Yep.
We've got about $388,000, so we're going to have to go to do the job properly. We're hoping that we actually stay within the 388. Just that's why we were going to have to say this is what probably is the best thing. The budget's so close.
Thank you, Councillor Bruce. So you understand the committee is that is, as the general manager is saying, that is the best result for that area out there. Demolish the existing ladies' toilets, existing men's toilets, demolish both those, one new building in the position of the existing ladies' toilets.
Yes,
Yep.
that's right.
Yep. The other one that does concern me a little bit is that track crossing regarding the pony club. Twilight race meeting coming in the next couple of weeks.
No way to use it at all.
Yeah.
And is that being adhered to? That's not,
Yeah,
That's-
all
that's-
the users are aware of it, that's not to be used.
you don't want, the last thing we need after the debacle of the race meeting before last is another problem.
Still buttons,
Yeah, I understand that, but we need the pony club to absolutely adhere to this. Yeah, that's, and any vehicle traffic against him. It's all right saying, I think it just needs to be done. Councillor White.
Re, kangaroos, fencing, has there been any thought to encourage, our population of kangaroos to live elsewhere?
that will have to happen anyway, Mr. Mayor.
I know it will be, but, there are certain non-lethal options that can be done to encourage kangaroos to move.
Can't comment, Councillor Whiteley, but we'll leave it to the operational staff, perhaps to have a look at that issue prior to, particularly to the twilight race meeting on the 16th of December. Sylvester. Take it on notice, please. But again, it's not what we need. I know it's beyond your control, but relatively, but if you can do mitigating work, that would be an excellent way to go. Any further comments, questions regarding the business and the recommendations from the Showground Racecourse Committee? Nothing further, debate. All those in favour? Against? Carried. 2 minutes now for the Warren Airport Operations Committee, held on the 23rd of November. Someone have to do those. Councillor McCloskey, second. Councillor Taylor. Councillor McCloskey.
Yeah, two things, Mayor, thank you. Number of issues were discussed at the meeting, principally moving forward with regard to the terminal building. Given that the frame is out there and been ordered and was for a 2-storey building, but with access issues, and that it was decided to move forward with a single-storey building. So investigations have been undertaken with regards to that. One thing to come to light during discussions of the meeting was potentially the budget that is available to build a new building may fall short of what potentially the costs of a new building will actually cost. So extra funds may need to be sourced for that to be completed, given that the building in its first instance was part of a grant fund and needs to be built. So investigation with regard to single story. The frame can be utilised to a certain degree with modifications, so it won't be totally lost in terms of the new building. Another issue item that was discussed was the drainage on runway 0321, which you should be aware of is flooded now, so runway 0321 is unavailable for use. And a couple of options are being thought of with regards to the drainage of that, one being into Councillor Whiteley's property and another one being into Eagle Ladbroke, so that you don't have an issue in future given you get a rain event that puts it out of operations and essentially you've only got one strip to operate on. Another item with regards to the meeting was spoken about was the fuel availability and the cost thereof. So investigations are going to be undertaken as to whether there is another suitable supplier as opposed to the current supplier of the fuel out there, and so whether it can be sourced cheaper through that supplier, given the price appears to be dearer here than all the surrounding suppliers. So there was a fear that given that was the case, that people might be going elsewhere to source their fuel as opposed to coming to Warren. So it's going to be looked at as to whether one, there is another supplier out there, and two, whether fuel can be sourced cheaper as regard to that. So other than that, there wasn't much else. There's been any questions here?
Thank you, Councillor McCloskey. So, in regards to the terminal building, have we got any sort of time frame about I think it's in the hands of the engineers, but I'm just have to reacquaint myself, that's not there. The airport terminal itself, what stage are we up to in terms of actually, is the engineering done for the foundations, or how?
No, still getting all finalised. Design and contract documents, and I would probably suggest that it won't be until finished in June.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Any further comments, questions, Councillor Kinsey?
Is a survey ever been done, like a surveyor's ever done, getting the water from where it sits at the railway line there, compared to extending it to Sandy Creek?
Mr. Mayor, and this is information that come to me after the meeting, that there was Pat Holland, Brett Williamson, actually went out there with some maps that Pat had sourced with regards to the lay of the land and where potentially the water wants to run, or where potentially you can get the water to run. And this has only come to light to me in the last day or two, that potentially the best option with regards to that is to take it straight south and into the supply channel of Oslo, or otherwise over or under the channel and into the creek.
I mean, in the future, we probably, well, it's always been a hole.
So, like I say, that only happened earlier in the week. They actually went out and walked the area in question themselves.
So the airport committee will come to a sensible conclusion about where the best place to go. Yeah, the principle is we want to get the water off. It's just a matter of working through
Which is the best option.
Yeah. Thank you. Councillor Whiteley.
Yeah, just a slight correction. I don't own the land, but the gentleman is right. It is in the hole. There are some legal implications for that that affect the Nevertire irrigation stream and the family that owns those, because of the licensed flood grants. It doesn't affect the highway and it doesn't affect the railway. I'm not quite sure whether it would affect drainage of an airport because it's controlled by council, possibly not. But there are some legal implications with licensed flood grants through the Environment Community Heritage. There are also there will be some considerable expense to do this, I would think.
Leave it to that committee to come back with some recommendations. That's where we sit. Thank you. Any further comments, questions regarding the Airport Operations Committee? Nothing further. We'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. The minutes of the recommendation of the Planning Committee held on the 23rd of November, the same day. Someone happy to move that? Councillor Kinsey, second. Councillor McCloskey. Councillor Kinsey.
This meeting recommendation, it was a fairly productive meeting, though, quite frankly. You know I was late, so I got a lot of cheese.
Can I have just a quick summary of the conversations that have been had with the EPA regarding Macquarie, and did that meeting, there was one program for the 24th, did that actually occur? Sylvester's man, the Major Engineering Services, to things up to speed with that. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the meeting occurred sometime last week with EPA. Initially, we submitted a validation request to EPA to increase the production at the quarry and also include blasting as a scheduled activity in the license. But then we realized that blasting is already included in the license as per the Protection of the Environment Operation Act. So I had EPA confirm that, and after they confirmed that, they arranged that meeting that was last week. So since blasting was already in the license, I asked them that I would withdraw blasting from my valuation application. But then after that, I thought maybe because the production that's allowed in the license at the moment is 30,000 to 50,000 tons per annum, there's no need for the variation now. So the thinking that that we had was instead of going with variation now, withdraw it, and then maybe put the quarry out for an expression of interest for somebody to come and operate it on our behalf. And then if they need more production, then they can apply for the variation, or we can apply with them, in conjunction with them, but then they shoulder the cost. So yeah, so the outcome of the meeting was that we withdraw the license, which has now been done, and then we will then, if council allows, we then proceed with the expression of interest.
So that will come back to another planning committee meeting in terms of, I think we had this discussion before, I can't remember what exactly it was, but the cost of us operating the quarry was going to be prohibitive, and that it would be best to go to an outside operator, and as you're rightly saying there, go to expressions of interest.
We operationally will work out what we have to do, and since we've had at least 3 knocks on the door, and even probably a 4th one, we will just try to progress, knowing exactly what is required and a chance that an expression of interest might come out, and it then go through the plan committee. Yeah. I think the plan committee was, without doing any recommendation, was kind of, that was the direction, that's what it says, especially this probably needs to be arranged. And we have to work out how we get an expression of interest that actually helps us get material as well as someone else using the quarry as well. So in the end, probably we have to work out operationally what we can put together to do a proper expression of interest. And if we feel comfortable with it, if we do, we put it out and we go through the plan committee. You comfortable with that, Sylvester? We've had at least 3, and I know another local who was really the 4th one way back.
So that amount, say up to 50,000 tonnes, that I've got no idea of concept. Is that a reasonable quantity to be expecting?
It certainly wouldn't be if they want to use it for the inland rail.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, one of the interested parties indicated that they would want between 50,000 to 80,000.
So that's good. Thank you. That's within the ballpark understanding what's a reasonable amount. Councillor Whiteley, you have a question?
Just a comment, Mr. Mayor. I think that the committee realised that running the actual quarry ourselves is not core business, and would be preferable to be contracted out to other people. But the committee also is highly aware that the council needs to be a beneficiary of that operation, and more than just getting the material. We would need monies to because we would have a lot more usage on that road facility and other access points, and for us to go through the process and accept a tender, it would have to be beneficial to the Shire as a whole.
So that matter will be progressed in-house and then come to the plan committee. Yep, thank you. Councillor Kinsey.
Is there any way that we can know what we've actually mined from that quarry for our own uses in the past, on an average, or whatever? Maybe Councillor McCoskey might know, have a bit of an idea.
Off the top of my head, no, Councillor Kins, I couldn't tell you. Well, 3 years.
We have
there.
records of the quarry sheds.
I worked in that quarry 40 years ago,
Yeah,
and it was a big hole then.
yeah.
I reckon right through the sledgehammer. And I wasn't in prison.
Thank you, Councillor McCloskey. I think, Councillor Kinsey, I think to your question, the Division Manager of Finance Administration used to have a record of what was being blasted and what was being used, so I think we could actually have a bit of a handle on that, with a little bit of work in that department, if one of it.
Yeah.
Is that possible? Yeah.
I guess.
Anything further? Comments, questions? The recommendation did include the purchase of a 3.6 metre slasher, which I think certainly would be beneficial. I don't know whether members of that committee want to comment on that slasher.
We looked at a number of possibilities of slasher, and we've left, the decision was basically preference to one, but our supervisor of maintenance is progressing.
The idea of using that at the airport and bigger areas. Thank you. Any further comments, questions regarding the plan committee meeting? Nothing further, put that, all those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to the minutes of the Sporting Facilities Committee held on the same day again, 23rd November. I'm happy to move those minutes and the recommendations. Councillor Jackson, thank you. Second. Councillor Whiteley. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I commend the minutes and invite the chair of those committee members to make some comments I think are pertinent.
Yeah, I think the recommendations are probably the important part to be covered first off. We've had discussions about scoreboards at Victoria Oval for some time. The committee gave, after some recommendations from the manager of the Sporting Health Centre, decided on a couple of areas where we can move forward. The first one being a main oval facing the scoreboard. The view of the committee was that a hardwired scoreboard would be the best one there. The alternatives are hardwired or battery driven, and the batteries may last 6 or 8 hours, I think was the number that we were talking about. The decision of the committee was the best, and to recommend to council was that any scoreboard that was oval facing, which would be larger, be hardwired in, and the further investigation be undertaken into the operation of that scoreboard, in that it would be a wireless operation. It needs to be able to operate over a few hundred metres, remote control, and the remote control needs to be easily used, but also able to withstand some more extreme weather events, as in rain, etc., without getting malfunctions occurring. So that's where we went with the main oval facing scoreboard. The idea of item 6.3 is that portable scoreboards, 2 of them, be purchased with grant funding when it becomes available, that they be battery powered and that they be movable, and that then gives us the ability to take them to the outdoor netball courts, to the second oval, in fact anywhere they're required, and eventually maybe over the Carter Oval if they're required there. So they would be battery driven, again, hopefully of the same brand as the main oval scoreboard, so that we've got some synergy in that, and it's always the one company, there seems to be 2 companies have these products available, and the Centre Manager is going to do some further investigation into which is the most appropriate, and then we have to perhaps sit back and look for grant funding, or we do have to sit back and look for grant funding. There is an undertaking from Junior Rugby League and Rugby Union, they will make some contribution to particularly the main oval facing scoreboard. The other matter I draw your attention to is that the infrastructure projects manager had a landscaping plan for Carter Oval, and if anyone would like to comment on that, we're going to try and get that sorted so that the landscaping plan can be ticked off and trees, etc., can start to be planted perhaps March or so next year in the Carter Oval precinct, so it starts to get underway. So if anyone would like to have a look at that plan, and I think Councillor Bruce, it'd be helpful if you might have a look at that final plan, or almost final plan, and have some comments on that. The other point I would make is a grant application has been made for some female change rooms at Victoria Oval. The grant application is in the order of 500,000. It began a modular type building similar to the one that we've approved for the Carter Oval precinct. The view is that we could, another 2 change rooms would allow us to have some bigger sporting events, but also cater for the crossover between male and female sport happening on the same day. And so there is an indicative plan was tabled at the Sporting and Cultural Centre Sporting Facilities meeting, and that it also did include some toilets that could be accessed by the public at any hour of the day, also any hour of the day, except that they probably have automatic locking devices on it. And the centre manager is finding that people are coming over, they're on the oval, etc., but they're not. There are toilet facilities. There aren't any open toilet facilities there, so that would create an opportunity there that wasn't there otherwise, and he's not being constantly harassed to open the building to allow people who are just walking dogs, etc., to use toilet facilities. That covers the essentials of that meeting. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just want to ask a question about the recycling program at Sports Complex item. Is that, if it is able to be implemented, would that be open to members of the public to bring their bottles and cans down, not to cash them in obviously, but if they want to dispose of bottles and cans that they normally take the tip or put in garbage?
Mr Mayor, what the program is the individual sporting groups be organised to actually organise their own recycling when they have selling cans and bottles and things like that. Would almost have a recycling officer, like Warren Rugby Club, on it. Not a recycling facility, them trying to organise the recycling of all the gear that they could. That's what it's about.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further on the minutes and recommendations from the Sporting Facilities Committee? Further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Move to the reports of delegates. The first of those being the meeting of Castlereagh and Macquarie County Council. Councillor White, you're happy to move that. Councillor Kinsey, Councillor White.
The draft minutes of the Castlereagh County Council are in front of you. This meeting, because of flooding and other issues, was the first time, as I'm aware, that this was conducted by Zoom. Internet meeting, and because it was the first time that a meeting like this has been discussed, that we used in this facility, it wasn't quite as productive as some of us would have liked. There is a ongoing Hudson Pear issue with which the Minister of Agriculture is involved in and meetings dates, but there is nothing really to report to council here. Probably locally, the the trialling of an environmental control of African boxthorn is continuing, and there's a meeting our December meeting is in about 10 days' time. That's all.
Is that, Councillor, is that trial actually begun anywhere, or is it?
Yeah, it's started, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, there is, I understand, 3 sites across. One that's in our shire. I'm not aware of where. But, there's 3 sites of this environmental control, fungus control of African boxthorn. The senior weeds officer was to report on that, on how it's going in Townsville.
Excellent, thank you. Any further comments, questions regarding the Muswell and Macquarie County Council meeting? With that, all those in favour? Against? Carried. Has it broken on there? Item 2 is the regards the ordinary meeting and the annual general meeting of Country Mayors Association. I'm happy to move that. Someone happy to second? Councillor Derrick. I attended those meetings which were held concurrently on Friday 18th in Sydney. The general meeting, you can see the minutes of there and the annual general meeting. Just to bring up to date, the current or the former chairperson of the Country Mayors Association, Ken Keith from Parks, has stood down after his term. He does rotate after 2 or 3 years. I've still got exactly which number. Jamie Chackney from Mayor of Gunnedah has stepped up into the role, and I believe he'll be a very proactive. He's been on the board of Country Mayors for some time. I think perhaps even since its inception, and he'll be very proactive, I believe. Mayor Craig Davies from Narromine is also on the board, and Mayor John Metcalf from Lachlan is also on the board of Country Mayors. I would have to say that Country Mayors has a degree of credibility with the politicians. I think it has a voice that is relatively significant, and for our patch, it has the same significance in many ways as local government New South Wales has, in that we speak with often a very united voice and speak for, in terms of geographical terms, a very big part of the state. So I think politicians do take notice of that group and are very keen to attend their meetings, which is gratifying. Unfortunately, the Premier was unable to attend that meeting, and the Emergency Services Minister, they were called at that time to Eugowra and Forbes, and so they were unable to attend. But Minister Tuckerman, local government minister, was in attendance and fielded various questions, particularly pertaining to the Red Fleet, and I think that's going to be an ongoing issue that has minimal impact on our audit situation, so we can perhaps deal with it, but it's something that's all the other, well, when you haven't got control of the assets, it's hard to understand how that they become your asset. The other person who spoke, or 2 others who spoke, were a lady from IPART, whose name just escapes me for a minute. Recognising, though, that when that 0.7 ratepeating initiative was first released, how inadequate that was, and they're really looking at their methodology again to bring that into line with what should be occurring in local government, and hopefully that same outcome won't be occurring again. That really was way out of touch with the cost increases that local government was actually enduring. The other point I would make is that we have received as council a discussion paper in regard to the upcoming state election, and Jamie Chappie's put together a whole lot of discussion points across health, roads, etc. We're seeking commitments from local candidates as to what their stance is on various matters, so that everyone in our communities can understand what their local member thinks about, well, the candidates for election in the state government think about particular issues. And so that'll be, letters will be sent to every candidate, and we'll be asking, as we can at the twilight race meeting, okay, Annette Turner, what is your view on these particular matters, roads, particularly health, particularly emergency work, all those issues. And so we'll have a pretty broad-based understanding of where various parties sit. I think that the bargaining thing will be, you know, particularly say the Labor opposition at present have indicated that they will scrap the red fleet requirement being on our books. And so I think that's something that we can say, well, hang on a minute, one party's going to do this, can we get an undertaking from the other parties or even our local member at present, Students and Fishers Party, whether they will undertake to do the same things. Look, happy to field any other questions regarding the Country Mayors Association, but it's my view it's one of the more valuable organisations to which we belong. Thank you. Being nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to policy items, one item of the policy is the code of meeting practice. Someone happy to move that? Councillor Jackson, second. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I commend the recommendation to my colleagues, and I note that some, if you like, updating has taken place, which I believe brings us, you know, in a social sense, forward into the expectations of modern society. And one of those items is to be able to attend a meeting via Zoom, if deemed appropriate, by the Mayor. You know, we have had councillors missing from meetings because they simply could not get physically into town. And that's been disappointing but unavoidable. But with this, some of these changes, that will no longer be an issue, which I think is fantastic. And of course we have the acknowledgement of country to be by the minutes of official monthly council meetings. And I note that no feedback has come forward from the community as to whether or not they disagree or have suggestions in relation to that. So therefore I commend the policy as displayed to my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. I think this was all workshopped and then it's been on public display for the appropriate period. Nothing, yeah, no comments received. So, happy Councillor Jackson's moving the recommendation that Council adopt the draft code of meeting practice of 2022. Any comments, questions before we put that? Nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to reports of the General Manager, and the first of those being the outstanding reports list. Someone happy to move that extensive list be noted. There's really no recommendation at the top, but except to say that we note that outstanding report checklist, and perhaps that there are some activities items that may be deleted. Is that a reasonable recommendation? Someone happy to move that recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Second. Councillor Drews. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have no particular questions on this action checklist myself personally.
Just an item, page 13, whether an asterisk could be applied to it with respect to the slashes that was determined to be brought to the plan committee meeting. Can that be removed on this action checklist?
It probably can at the next one because it's on, that recommendation's only just been accepted, by council today. So that wasn't, it actually, when this action checklist was put together, it was appropriate that it stayed on there. So next time, yes, I believe that can be removed, Councillor Boston. Absolutely. Councillor Dress.
Just a comment, even though this is the mobile and internet coverage at Nevertire. I've just had a few comments about people being very disappointed about that tower being put right in front of the water tower where the mural is. It's very disappointing. Just a
Agreed.
comment.
Agreed. I think we come to that main health and development's portfolio there, at towards the end of the meeting. That's,
Okay.
it's a
So I
development
just wasn't
application,
sure.
as I'm understanding, yeah, so, no. I have a couple of questions on page 7 regarding the sewage treatment plant. Manager of Regional Engineering Services, how are we progressing there? Understanding, of course, that flood water has caused some issues there, but are we getting close to seeing that fully operational?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we're getting close. What you're waiting for is some parts that our contractor was to procure.
It's going
It's going
now.
up.
Yeah. 11th of November, the Pillinger Street Constellation new one is pumping into it. Right. It's just so the first pond is almost full,
Okay.
ready to go over into the next pond.
Yep.
But it needs to be properly seeded because what's been going out there has been pretty diluted.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the process of properly seeding it. But it's operational
Now,
within a sense.
within a sense. So is anything still going to the old school treatment plant?
I don't think so. No, it's going to.
No, nothing in there. Okay. Thank you. Chlorination, we almost have spoken about that. The chlorination plant, so that maybe been used it. One, just an update again on that chlorination. So we've got the Colli and Nevertire. No.
Never tire, Angular, and
Never, so just, yeah,
It's never time morning.
yes.
So we had our variation and the groundwater augmentation project approved.
Yes.
So we are ongoing with that. I think the general manager has now signed off the invoice for that.
it's Colli, not
Colli,
Colli,
not Colli, yeah. Okay, so good. And the last one, the plant committee consider keeping 107 timber. I've got that page 12. Do we need other plant to go with that to create another query? And you might bring me up to speed, what are plant 31 and 165?
Plan 31 and 165 will be the ones that will go.
What are they?
UD 6x4 tipper and a super dog tipper. They will eventually go when 107 is set up for the being the water card in the 5th quarter.
Okay, that's what it is. Right, thank you, makes more sense. Thank you.
Just 3 years, maybe. You know, you said 31 and 165 when the UD and the Superdog are the game. Are they not an option as to be used with the flood levy as well as keeping them? As haulage trucks, given they're going to be in demand and a short supply potentially thereof, are they not an option in the short term to keep them as well?
We're going to have a road train side tipper. But it needs only a single. It was one of the ones that actually eventually helped pay for the $624,000 that we just used.
Given if you've got the, I can understand it's sellers to pay for it, but if you're going to be short in terms of resources to go and do the job, there is an option that we're potentially giving up.
They're not working on having an operator.
Not working on having it up.
We're flat out actually filling the temporary positions. So it was one of the ones that was going, 107's not. Originally, the
So you can understand that, yes.
and the UD's in such a condition that it needs to go. But your thoughts will be considered.
Thank you. Yeah. But my assumption was that actually, what I said in Tipper was actually something we'd be doing, as Councillor McCloskey was saying, haulage where in fact it's becoming a water park. So that's what I wanted. Yeah.
It's the one that gets 113, the square tank put into the original. It was kind of the one truck that didn't disappear from the, because of the old road. Yeah, so advertising closed, and we hopefully will fill a fair amount of the positions, but not all of them. We might have to go again.
And again, going back to 31 and 165, the configuration of a rigid and the super dog as opposed to your road train configuration, it just gives you a bit more versatility in what that unit can do as opposed to what a road train can do and where you can get it. I think. Okay.
I think, yeah. If that can be considered, Councillor McCloskey's comments to be taken on board, that would be a valuable thing. Thank you.
It's not broken down.
Yeah, quite that. I just understanding where your view is. Any further comments, questions regarding the action checklist, General Manager? Item 1 of his report. Nothing further to put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to item 2, which is our standing item. In recognition of Warren being a healthy town and to keep awareness of the healthy lifestyle things is standing on dealing with item 2 of the General Manager report. Someone happy to move item 2, the committee delegates. Someone please. Councillor Jackson, thank you. Second. Councillor McCloskey. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Mayor Quigley. I have nothing to add, and I was commend the recommendation.
Interesting. Anything? I think that perhaps that regional water strategy we're talking on the 8th.
Yeah, the focus session.
Focus session done. Great. Cast rate, yeah. Yeah, just really supported, yeah.
So, so the mayor and myself attended the on the 8th of November the focus session on the draft from Macquarie Castlereagh water strategy. They well and truly did focus us, but we were able to impart a fair amount of our knowledge that we wanted to in relation to particularly a submission that we were asked to do by DPE before they opened it up, and that submission had about 12 or 13 items our thoughts that we garnered over the last 12 months or so, previous submissions, other members of the community that had asked us to consider. That was provided. A reasonable amount of our requests for slight changes or amendment were considered. Some were noted. One major area that we did put in, we subsequently received a request for support from the Creeks Association to part of the process of the strategies they're considering really probably turning off the creeks or piping the creeks. And we have already put in part of our submission that we consider that could be both an environmental and an economic disaster. So the Creek Association was happy. We've advised them we'd already put in our submission detailing exactly what you were considering, just so if you do get queries from people in the Creeks Association, we covered our bases with their problem. We still want to talk to the Minister Anderson about it whenever we can.
I think the overriding factor that we tried to reinforce is the strategy had a lot of tinkering at the edges type stuff, save a few megalitres here, a few megalitres there, when the big issue really is keeping the supply level at Barragong particularly up to that 120% of its present full supply level. And that was the thing that was going to make the biggest impact. And we got some pretty good support from Dan Berry, Water New South Wales, in the same forum, that was probably the most important thing. And the consensus of our day in that forum was that would be the most important thing that state government could do.
Increase of reliability from 4 years every 10 to almost 6 years every 10, and that means reliability is so valuable to everyone.
Yeah. So look, I think it was important we attended. I don't want to sound over the top, but I think without us being there and our knowledge, it would have been, along with Dan Berry from Water New South Wales, I think it would have been severely lacking in any sort of understanding of what was actually going on in this valley below Barragong. I mean, it was really essentially broken up into above Barragong and below Barragong. We spoke fairly firmly about below Barragong, but without us being there, you know, quite frankly, no one else has got the handle on it that this council does.
And that's because we've actually just teamed with several members of the community to help us who you know, we can't read everything and understand everything, and they've helped us, which then puts us in good stead when we're at focus meeting, because other councils were just looking there, not able to really provide the input that we were able to.
Councillor White, I know you attended the following day. You've got a comment?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I back your gentleman's comments. Bit of background. This is the first 25-year plan that the Department of Environment has taken on board. Previously, historically, water planning was under the Department of Agriculture. So there was a fair bit of learning from the writers of the report that it initially came out, and to their credit, when we did our first submission to them privately or confidentially, they did change a lot of things that were factually wrong. Then with the council meeting, which the Mayor and the GM was productive, as the Mayor has said. Then the next afternoon there was a public meeting, which was, I would say, 90% ratepayers of ours in England Shire, basically involved with the Creeks Association and those that are along the creeks, to the point that even then publicly, the executive officer, the leader of the team, basically backed down from shutting the creeks down to saying where the point in a drought that we had before, where the creeks would be shut down then, that our organisation, the Warranshire Council, just needs to be on top of all this to correct facts that are wrong, and I just commend we keep lobbying to get Minister Anderson in the Lower Macquarie.
I think the other overriding thing we need to keep stressing is the environment is much, much more than just the Macquarie marshes. It drives me batty. That's the only thing that's considered the environment. The creeks are the environment, the river environment is not. It's the idea that you have to sacrifice everything else for the Macquarie marshes I think it's poor thinking.
But most Mr Mayor, the most efficient place to keep water is in Burrendong Dam. There's all sorts of discussions of increasing and putting off-river storages in Nyngan and even possibly putting one down the valley. The evaporation rate in storages can be up to 11 millimetres a day. The most efficient place for the water is the dam, and we, as an organisation, need to keep lobbying for the 100 to become 120. And this year, anecdotally proves that the flood mitigation with the technologies that are such now, we can keep upstream cities, Dubbo, safe at a figure of 120.
I would also just draw your attention to item, the first item on there, the various Warren Local Emergency Management Committee meetings. I would like to commend the work of the General Manager and his team and the intelligence that he gathered prior to a lot of those meetings, just for keeping everyone informed, everyone under control. I believe without Council's leadership in the flooding events that have been occurring over the last couple of months, we could have been in a much worse situation. And I think we look after this event to really understand the best way and talk to government about the best way of managing floods for Warren. My view is it should be a council-led group, and we are the best group to actually have a handle on things and run it efficiently and sensibly and safely. But thanks, General Manager, for really organising that. You went out of your way, and I appreciate that.
All the paperwork behind it.
It's paperwork.
It's actually embarrassing, isn't it? We're up to meeting number 26.
Yeah. Thank you. Anything further of item 2? Sorry, Councillor Derrick.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a couple of quick things. The interagency meeting was held, but given the time frame for reports due, that will be reported to the January meeting. So Councillor Walker will be doing those minutes of the report to Council. And also, not particularly a meeting, but just checking, are we still expecting the WOW agency representatives to visit tomorrow? WOW agency, the
media.
Yes, 1 p.m. I get confused with WOW.
Yeah,
WOW Centre Precinct.
WOW agency.
Well, I see 1 p.m. A small lunch here.
For councillors, please.
So that's the firm that does our communication and marketing, and the lady who owns the firm and one of her officers are coming for our Christmas party and to see Warren, and if possible, come and have some lunch with them here at 1 p.m. please. Sorry about that.
Which WOW? Yes, thank you.
Wow.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions regarding item 2 of the General Manager's report? There being the case, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Please be seated. Item 3, the General Manager's report, works progress report regarding infrastructure projects. Someone happy to move that the information received and noted there? Councillor Jackson, second. Councillor McCoskey. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I commend this report to my colleagues.
Within the next couple of weeks, we should have the shade sail also on top of the splash pad, which is reasonable timing. the polls went in last week, about 3 weeks before the big sales come on. And, Mr. Mayor, we're close to finishing the equestrian arena. I'm hoping that the kick rail gets done over the next couple of weeks, and then trying to finish everything off just before Christmas. But it's not guaranteed. It's very reliant on the kick rail. I want kick rail in before we finish off the base. Finish off probably an 80 mil, bit bigger than 50 mil layer of crushed dust, tied it up completely, then 50 millimetres of sand on top of that. And we have 300 tonne, which is equivalent to 30 mil sand that sits outside for users to put in and out for the different types of facility. So we're crossing fingers that before Christmas we finish that. And they know that everyone's hoping that happens. Everything's just starting to come to a head budget-wise. The infrastructure project manager is finalising all his estimates for Cardarella to see what type of gap there is to completely finish it off. That'll be reported in the new year.
So just a couple of questions that we might be able to ask. Just the page 25, the access gate to the splash basket's been completed, has it not?
Long time ago.
Yeah, so it can probably be fine. Can I ask a question about the cricket pitch? Is turf starting to be relayed for that cricket pitch, or how we
Well, I
going
think it's been the field and the cricket pitch are actually going to happen because they believe that it's better to actually just be pouring the water on during summer.
Okay.
We're still only working on we're working on September 2023. Everything's finished, including that's when the opening is now. We're able to the event grant has been extended into next year, and it's actually just now perfect timing that we actually moved everything along. So you'll probably find March, April, May, June, lots of things happening, and our experts have said it's still the best time to try to get the field and the cricket pitch done in summer.
Third question, you're showing one out of the GBS Faulkner Lounge, etc. Is that windows and etc. likely to be installed? Yeah, finished. It's all done, is it? All I'm thinking is Twilight Race meeting, we don't need things done.
The only bit is a bit of concrete work at the front near the stairs won't be done. It'll be tidied up.
Yeah. Good. Just make sure all that's under control.
We should have no one having the ability to fall out of the windows.
This is an important thing.
Yeah. And the windows were really breakable. You know, it's of the 60s and 70s. That's the motor.
Thank you. So we move into the second bit, which was Councillor Jackson, Councillor McCloskey. Are we happy to just asterisk that item regarding the access gates to the splash pad? Yep. To get page 25. Yes. Any further comments, questions regarding the item 3, the general management report, regarding works to progress the infrastructure projects? Nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour, against, carried. To item 4 of the general management report, the recommendation to relax the alcohol-free zoning Dubbo Street for the Christmas street party. Someone happy to move that? Councillor Jackson. Thank you, Councillor McKenzie. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had a question, it's not actually mentioned in the detail, regarding the area that's going to be cordoned off for the bar, the Open Junior Bar. Will it be an over 18 zone? So if we're cordoning off an area, whereby you can consume alcohol. Will that be for 18 years and over?
It'd be exactly the same conditions as if it is the Warren Rugby Union Club over at it's their licence. They have to just make sure that under 18 aren't drinking. So our 14-year-old could be sitting with you drinking exactly the same as if it's a hotel, the sporting complex, but they're not allowed to drink because they're underage. So that licence, they have to follow their licence condition. Like right now, if we're playing rugby union, there's all the 14-year-olds around watching rugby union. They're just not allowed to buy or drink alcohol. There will be setups for families outside that area, but no. Apologies, I can provide a map, and right now, Mr. Mayor, there is a map to show.
Morning, Ted. That's all.
Morning, Ted.
No, yeah. There is a, yes, no, there is. Sorry, Councillor Taylor, you have a question?
Yes, through Mr. Mayor, just note the rugby union's concerned with BYO. How do they, it doesn't say there how they're going to police that, is there any
Signs at each end, Mr. Mayor.
signs are fine? So,
And the police.
no security, no.
No, and police said wasn't required because it's Warren Rugby Union, and the same situation as what's happening over at Victoria Oval on Sunday. So I believe a high chance has been the police who have dictated the terms of this to rugby union. And then rugby union probably realised, yes, we need this because we won't be able to control it. Everyone will blame us when someone's been silly in the street with their own alcohol. So the police.
Yeah, Councillor Derrick, and then Councillor Whiteley. Councillor Derrick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just on that, I was going to ask something about that. Just further to the signage, can there be, I don't think there has been, but can there be some messaging on social media about no BYO? Because
There will be, as soon as council makes a decision,
Today?
and I'm physically able to do it.
that's great.
Yeah, that was it. But sadly, this is the quickest, earliest time we can have it.
Councillor Whiteley,
Whilst I am a member of the Warren Rugby Club, I haven't been involved in this at all, but I have, my family members been, King is the licensee, and whilst it's a rugby club, the rugby club are doing this as a service to the community, and the profits of that are helping the budget with the fireworks at our. It is an example of how this community is flexible and gets together to get an outcome, and the negotiations, which I haven't been party to, but I know have happened with the general manager and the local police and the licensing police, have been flexible to get this outcome. There's been a lot of work done by a lot of people.
Councillors, I hope you'll all be able to attend to our afternoon's street party, but I think it's incumbent upon us just to say to people, if someone's outside the designated area, say, hey, come on, you guys, we can't have this. Just you're going to ruin it for everyone if stuff to do. Just in the gentle way, if we see something going astray, if we can fix it early, it's a lot easier. And take on board Councillor Whiteley's point, the Rugby Union Club have gone out of their way to help the whole community. A travesty if they were in strife as a result of some untoward behaviour. Thank you. Any further comments on item 4? Nothing further. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Item 5, the report of the General Manager, the delivery program and progress report. Someone happy to move that recommendation? Item 5. Councillor Derrick, you're happy to move that? Thank you. Councillor Jackson, second. Councillor Derrick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to move the recommendation. There's just a comment that there's quite a lot of red in the economic development part of the delivery program, which obviously suggests that we really need an economic development and promotions manager. So just so everyone's aware, that position is still being advertised for the 3rd time now, with applications closing, I believe, the 8th of December. So hopefully we'll get some good quality applicants to improve that position. It's obviously much needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Derrick. Yeah, this is essentially the first year of that delivery program. So, 6 months. So to see some red there is not, it shouldn't be a surprise. There's a bit of work to go on, and I take your point very much, Councillor Derrick, that yes, the red seems to be in one particular area more than others. Any further comments, questions regarding the report regarding the delivery program, the 4-year delivery program? If nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Item 6 of the General Manager's report, the annual report for 21-22. I'm happy to move that annual report. Councillor Derrick, sorry. You just said, she did teach you. Councillor Derrick, thank you, Councillor Derrick. Second, Councillor Derrick.
Yes, happy to move recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Not allowed to find any errors, Mr. Mayor. It's gone and done. We're slowly making it our own, Mr. Mayor, and just in a slightly different way. I like using the delivery program stuff into it, so it's pretty clear what hasn't been done and what's half been done and what's been completed as well. Thank you. And hopefully a lot more photographs of 22-23.
Okay, we got Botman tells that at least already has 1,000 workers yet. Councillor Derrick, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just going to say we did receive that by email on the 28th of November, Monday. If anyone's looking for a read, I've already done so.
There's some hard copies there here for you. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. I think, look, it is a good document. It just gives us a bit of an idea of what has happened in that first phase of the delivery program. Commend that to you. Any further comments, questions regarding the annual report? Nothing further. Put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Item 7 on the General Manager's reports. That being a recommendation regarding the 2023 Western Division of Council's Conference. Someone happy to move that recommendation? Councillor Jackson and Councillor Kinsey. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I commend the recommendation that if we are invited, that we should have the people in those 3 positions attend the meeting, noting that it was considered the 2022 meeting was of value to the Shire.
Sorry, just in the public, I don't know who the organising council is for this one. I've forgotten. And we're not really party with that, so.
It's just one to set up everything just in case, because guess what, we'll come at a queer time or we need to make arrangements and it's just very good timing for a March 23 election. So I thought that eventually someone would organise themselves and have every politician there.
I think it's probably worth a call to David Gallagher and let's just find out when it is so we can sort of program it in. I would contend that this is one of the more valuable meetings we attend as well, in the small number of elected representatives, but invariably a big number of politicians. We get to speak with them one-on-one. That's really a valuable forum. Underutilised, I think, by a lot of our neighbouring councils, which we like.
Colleagues have to talk to us.
Any further comments, questions regarding item 7? So, Councillor Kinsey, you.
No, I was just wondering why we're not actually party to it all the time.
It's because that's their geographic border.
See, it comes from where there used to be the Crown land leases.
Okay.
We would be if we had any of those funny special Crown land leases, but they want us there. All our neighbours.
Yeah, it's a bit of a two-way street, Councillor Kinsey. We find it valuable, but likewise they find it valuable to have more councillors there, because then they can suggest to the politicians that they'll be able to speak to a big part of the state in terms of geographical coverage. So, I think we do make a point of attending this one. It's a good forum.
Pretty hard to give up with this, Mayor. You're constantly talking to those politicians on those couple of days.
Yes. We'd like to invite them to Warren, and it's valuable, when we can, it is to just make that personal meeting, and that's why I'd encourage you to go to the National Party venue on Twilight Race Meeting, to actually speak with these people personally. And then when you push comes to shove, we need to make a phone call, they actually know who they're talking to. It's not an out of the blue occurrence, and I think, we talk quietly and don't. My view is if we don't take a big song and dance, we just have sensible conversations, we get some good results.
And not be negative, just positive conversations.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions regarding item 7, the General Manager's report? Nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried.
Now, Mr. Mayor, the next item, I've got a slight adjustment to do with the Commission, please. What I'd like to say is for the higher cost in preparation of Victoria Park. And the reason why I'm saying that, Mr. Mayor, is that the timing is good and bad. I've had to say yes to something in preparation for Victoria Park that I want to use as a trial. We have the ability to spray Victoria Park and Oval for mosquitoes and insects. It's going to cost us $720, because I think I'm around $720. I wanted to do a trial, see what it was like. It's using proper material that's allowed and being done by a professional sprayer, in preparation to see if it's any good for larger events like twilight races, even larger, because I think the mosquito problem we're going to have will time it perfectly, be really bad for the 16th and reasonably bad for Sunday, this Sunday. And so because it needs to be done right now today, in preparation for Sunday, I've had to say yes to it. It's $720. It would be added on top of the hire of the thing. So that's for your consideration, Mr. Mayor. I will be handing out red bottles to everyone Friday night to say, make sure you use this at the concert at 3 p.m. on Sunday over at Victoria Park. But this makes sure that we don't have a problem with mosquitoes between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. on Sunday. Because there could be 300 to 600 people there too.
Just a question, Mr. Yes. So what's he do? How does he apply it?
It's been carried. He just sprays it with and it's special stuff that he's had to get in, he's got in, by his spray work. Yeah. And it needs that little bit of time, so any residual, people aren't getting on it.
So again, for the Victoria Oval area, you'll do everything inside the boundary fence.
And near the buildings.
In the building. Yeah. The area down the river where the floodwater was?
I don't know how far, certainly spraying at oval and around buildings, where everyone's going to build.
So we haven't got a mover in the second for that, but that's
So you move on with the
about, yeah, that's in there. So I'd probably am looking for a mover and a second, and now Councillor McCloskey and Councillor Bruce. Is Councillor McCloskey?
No comment other than that, yeah, fully endorse council's, donation. Good work.
Councillors, are we happy that we waive the requirement for security deposit? That's probably in the event that something goes not the way it should.
You're obviously going to be there too.
You happy with that? Yeah.
I need to relax at some stage, go there at 3 o'clock. I'm responsible for looking after all the money.
Thank you.
Locking it up.
Excuse me for a while.
I've got Councillor Bruce. Yep. Sorry, Councillor Jackson, you.
Yes, I also commend council for this, and I just had a technical question. Is there a reason that we're making it a donation as opposed to just waiving costs?
Good enough, because it needs to come from the donations vote. There's no such thing as waiving costs. If the donations vote pays for the hire of the facility, the way it's supposed to be done properly.
Yeah.
Same as the donations vote will pay for the sort of spraying.
It keeps the Division Manager of Finance and Administration happy. Yeah. Thank you. Any further comments, questions regarding item 8?
I'd just
Okay.
like to comment that I think it's absolutely wonderful that St Mary's putting this on, and I hope that it's supported really well.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions regarding item 8, the General Manager's report? Being nothing further, put that, all those in favour, against, carried. Moving on to the reports of the General Manager, Councillor Derrida, I'm mindful of your time, so
Oh, no, that's fine.
you're right.
I'll just,
I will adjourn at an appropriate time to allow you to go. Moving on to the reports of the Division Manager of Finance Administration, first of those being the reconciliation certificate. Someone happy to move that? Thank you. Councillor Bruce, second Councillor Jackson. Councillor Bruce.
Just moving the recommendation, thank you.
Any comments, questions regarding item 1? Nothing further, put that, all those in favour, against, carried. Item 2, statement of rates and annual charges from Division Manager of Finance Administration. Someone have to move that? Councillor Jackson, second. Councillor Kinsey. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Convener. I have no other than to commend the recommendation that information be received from budget.
Thank you. Any further on item 2, the Division Manager of Finance Administration's report relating to the statement of rates and annual charges? Nothing further, we'll put that, all those in favour, against, carried. Item 3, Division Manager of Finance Administration report regarding works progress project on their projects, infrastructure projects. And someone happy to move that? Thank you, Councillor Kinsey. Second, Councillor Bruce. Councillor Kinsey.
Just moving the recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Questions? Councillor Jess, sorry.
Just a question, probably been told before, but when are they expecting to start doing the doorways to the open air library? When will that?
Well, it, certainly in the new year, the quotation and setup is probably just about to be advertised.
Thank you.
And likewise, the order placed for the solar panels, we got a time frame for when that might be occurring?
Yes, so I've been in contact with the contractor. He has everything in the warehouse and we're going to start Monday.
Oh, right, okay. Thank you. And the time frame to complete what the number of projects, so we're probably doing one at a time sort of thing, is that how it happens? Or?
Yeah, hoping to have it finished by the end of December.
Okay. Good. Thank you. Any further comments, questions regarding item 3, the Division Manager of Finance Administration report? Further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carries. Moving on to the reports of the Divisional Manager of Engineering Services. First of those being the works progress reports pertaining to roads. Someone happy to move those? Or that recommendation, the information received and noted. Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Second, Councillor Whiteley. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I commend that recommendation, that the information be received and noted.
I think we can, given what the Division Manager of Engineering Services has spoken about earlier regarding, on page 9, Councillor, sorry. Nice to note that $3,883,200 regarding the New Park Bridge and Market Creek Bridge is there, so awaiting approval is now awaiting half approval, which is nice, excellent. Look, I have to say, in regard to this item, works pertaining to roads, I have to commend our staff on the work they've done, and I talk from my patch, particularly that on the state highway, how they've endeavoured to keep that open, and I make particular mention of Terence Hume and his crew, Greg Burton, all those fellows there, Anthony Wenzel. I believe they've done very, very well in very difficult circumstances. They've been very conscientious, gone above and beyond, and I wonder if you might relay, with the blessing of other councillors, thanks for the work that they've done. I believe they've really excelled, and yeah, very, very pleased to have all those fellows really respond in the way that they have. It's been gratifying, and I think our community has noticed that as well. We've got a little bit of criticism at times, and we've all received phone calls, but in the circumstances, it's been only a day or something that people have been interrupted for. And the fact that we've collectively been able to keep that road open, it's been a major triumph, I believe, of good sense in the most part, and only because of our fellows doing the work that they've been able to do. Yeah, I think it's an extremely good result. I can't speak for other roads, but we know we're going to have some challenges in front of us, but our staff keep responding in the way that they have, and particularly Steve Smith as the roads overseer, please convey my thanks to him as well, for our thanks to him as well. I think he's really stepped up and really appreciative of the work that our fellows are doing.
Just ask a question. The part of the industrial access road that's still closed, is there water still going across
No,
there?
there's holes are pretty bad there, and we will have worse than the state highway if we let trucks go in.
So, through you then, so no idea when that may be.
Yeah, sometime.
Okay, thank you.
We're sending very funny type of vehicles down past the hospital to get there. You know, the ones that can't fit through the roundabout. There are a few that occasionally feel.
Few headers.
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's just the circumstances in which we're in, but look, rest assured, I think we can say to anyone who makes an inquiry, we're really working as proactive as we can to just get everyone moving, keep everyone moving. It's just,
And also a comment too, I must say on Channel 40, the council guys are really good at updating, especially the trucks coming through, where to go.
Councillor Mikulski.
Through you, Mr Mayor, mate. In light of what the General Manager said in terms of the industrial access road, and there's been too bad still to open, is there any plan to do anything and open in the near future, given that if all the trucks that are starting to move, given the harvest, can't go down the industrial access road and don't go down by the hospital and go around the detour that way, you're going to have a major issue out here on the highway to the golf club sooner rather than later. Because all the trucks are going that way now.
You're talking about the heavy patch that's.
Yeah, the big passage between the bridge
Well,
and the access.
we're hoping that they will allow us to do that at the same time as what we're.
Yeah, because again, if you don't get some of the vehicles off that on the industrial access road, that's going to become a major issue out there.
We started the ball rolling with a hint that, see, you might not notice, they've actually marked some heavy patching that we're going to do at the same time. We're hoping that gets done too.
Yeah, because you can see that getting worse by the day.
Councillor Whiteley.
We have a heavy patch program there. Don't we need to do the industrial access road before we do that?
What, have you been out there lately?
No, I'm just thinking.
You understand, but as soon as the trucks hit it, you should have seen the pumping up that's started to happen. We'll call it now. So there's actually section number 4, which is just before the Marthago Road, and now there's section number 5, which is the 70 metres leading to the 5 Mile Count. It's pumping up now, and it's just ready to destroy itself. We've actually put traffic lights on it now. We put not traffic lights, but variable message boards to slow people down, because the trucks are actually almost bouncing through it. It's like a slush underneath the seal. The same thing could happen to our section of the industrial access road, plus these holes that are between 6 inches and 12 inches deep, half on the road.
I realise, sorry to interrupt, I realise that, it's just the access, that will, to do that heavy patching on the highway will create traffic movement problem.
Yes. They can turn right and go up past the hospital and then turn left.
Yeah.
If desperate. They'll be heavy patching half a road at a time. I know ahead of you in trouble, they try to manage one.
Yeah, I think the message is, exactly. There's a lot of work in front of us, and that you start one area, and then there's something else becomes a problem, as it is at the turn off the Marthago Road. When it moves off the highway, there's another problem appears. So challenging.
The damage to the road infrastructure won't be apparent until the pumping, the amount of water in the subsoil is unprecedented as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely, agreed. And I think that's something we need to convey to BEC when they do come to us to say, hang on a minute, these things are appearing in front of us on a daily basis. We probably need you back again in a period of time to reassess what's happened 3 months later or whatever.
And then we'll assume that it's going to
assume the worst because it's going to happen.
Certainly with the politicians.
Yeah.
It's not, you can't go and, like, physically engineering it impossible to go and fix something if you've got a sub-base that's that way.
Absolutely. Thank you. Any further comments, questions regarding item one of the division manager engineering service report pertaining to the roads. Nothing further, we'll put that all in favour, yes? Councillor Wick, Sarah Derrick just having departed the meeting, I think it's opportune we may adjourn for a morning or two, and so that Councillor Derrick doesn't miss too much of the meeting, we can try and juggle it. So with your permission, we'll adjourn the meeting.
Yeah.
It's going.
No, it's got a thread.
Is that meant it's going?
Now, this appears to be going down. Thank you. Thank you, Council. We'll resume the meeting, the December meeting of Warrandyte Council. And before we progress, the Division Manager of Engineering Services just has an update for Councillor McCloskey in relation to his question regarding 333, just to clarify that matter about where work has and hasn't been done.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The section that was done previously was 762 and part 764. So that's 3 kilometers. So I will have to change the segments for the betterment fund to start later of that section. So the other part of 64 onwards.
Because it said 64 to 76 Ks.
It's 65 to 76. So now it needs to be 65 to 76. Yeah. Part 64. So part 62 means
So part 62 segment.
is it's pretty.
It's segment 62 and part 764.
Yeah.
So part
65 to.
Yes.
Segment 64 means 64 to 66.
Yeah, but in one paper you've got 64, 76.
Yeah, no, so it's 65 to 76.
That makes sense to you, Councillor McCloskey.
Somewhat.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
drive one day.
yeah, exactly. Just in your own mind, ascertain that exactly where it is. Thank you for chasing that up. Thank you. We'll more formally recommence the meeting now with item 2 of the Division Manager of Engineering Service report, that being the works progress report regarding town services. Someone happy to move item 2 of the Division Manager of Engineering Services report? Councillor Whiteley, second Councillor Kinsey. Councillor Whiteley.
Amend the report to council.
Well, one really thing that we have to be aware of, on page 24, on page 26, Mr. Mayor, there's an $832,000 budget for parks and gardens, cemeteries and wastecourts, etc., and over $1 million spent because there's 731,000 and Jill's told me it's probably up to 751 now. That's the cost of the levy, operational costs and flood costs that relate to Warren Town. So hopefully in the next week or so, we'll be talking to Resilience New South Wales, one, to get most of the 174,000 from November, December paid for it, and then to realising that there's at least a $750,000 bill coming their way too.
Does that include the hire of the pumps as well?
Yes, but most of the pumps SES are provided. They're paying for that.
Yeah, Just a couple of questions in relation to item 2. A couple of meetings ago, I mentioned about the river water, particularly at my place, we turned the sprays on, had a real rank smell to it. And in the report, it says river mains flushing as required. Has any flushing been done of the river mains since, say, then, given the water at home again has a real rank smell to it?
I definitely noticed. Yeah.
That's pretty logical.
Yeah, no, I understand because, again, you've only got to look at the river water usage for town, and there's, in that period, there's been nothing moved through the system. So I'm aware that potentially because the system has been stagnant is the reason for the smell. So I don't know whether you're getting any more complaints with regards to that, but it does, it smells the buggery when you first turn the hose on. So you only got to look at the usage for the river water to see that nothing's moving. And again, in light of that, the figures for the race course are 0-0. We not had a need to irrigate the race course at any stage.
No.
Don't think so. Yeah, but that, or they're pumping from they haven't needed to pump from the river. Yeah. Don't get pumps to the storage.
But yeah, no, the river was got a real ring smell again.
Should have noticed that I actually turned my sprinkler on myself last night, and that created the rain again, I'm sure. But yeah, I didn't notice smell, but you getting it in your area?
I've had it for probably a week or so. Every time you turn the hose on, you get this foul, rank smell as soon as it comes out the end. And like I say, you only got to look at the lack of usage to get an indication that more water's in the main than's going out of the main, if that makes sense, you know?
Yeah.
It's just sitting there.
Might relay that to the town services manager and just have some flushing is in order to get it all started again, because, yeah, in time, we'll just head into the summer period at some stage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Crossley. Councillor White, you had a question or comment?
A comment and a possible suggestion. GM engineering. Hopefully this period of high river flow and having to deal with water inside the levees finished for a little while. But would it be appropriate to have a bit of a debrief with senior staff and possibly some councillors read what we can learn from this, pumps, information, possibly making a checklist for future things when staff mightn't be the same as they are now, just to learn from this exercise that we've gone through in the last 3 months. Read the drainage of the village.
I understand exactly what you're saying, Councillor Whiteley, and I think the town services manager has been making some notes about what the appropriate pumps are for various situations, but except entirely, if it was documented properly, then we've got a template from which to work next time. Notwithstanding there's lots of previous work done that he was able to lean on, and because particularly Councillor McCroskey, to bring everything up to speed prior to this most recent event. Yeah.
But something very similar, improving on it as pumps became not available. But a good idea for debrief and understanding.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Councillor Kinsey.
Notice that the general manager just handed over. We've got one of Nevertire. We do that at Nevertire and find out why that water's not getting away from the town, like going west of Nevertire.
I don't think it's because of the drainage in the town. I think it might be something blocking the drainage.
Yeah, well, it's getting to the railway line. After that, I haven't wandered off to Dicecott to see where it's going.
It's on the list.
Yeah, I think it's been.
Yeah, it's on the list.
It's on the list.
So just see you've got a map like that.
That's a map of the stormwater underground drainage system leading to our stormwater gates.
Yeah.
But Councillor Kinsey noted, I think that is something that's been looked at, yeah, in terms of, thank you, we're in negative. Thank you. Any further comments, questions regarding item 2 of the Divisional Engineering Services report? Nothing further, we'll put that, all those in favour, against, carried. Item 3, Divisional Engineering Services report. I'm happy to move that in terms of the fleet and the workshop. Councillor Kinsey. Second. Councillor McCloskey, Councillor Kinsey.
Just read the recommendation, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Councillor Whiteley.
If I can make some comment, Divisional Engineering Services, Sylvester has, aside, started preparing 15-year plan for replacement plan, which the plan committee saw, last week. And, yeah, it's good to have a document and a plan, long-term plan, which we used to have in past engineering terms. When the past engineer was here, that is now their general manager, it's good to see that document here.
Thank you, Councillor Whiteley. The other question I have is lots of our vehicles have been through a fair bit of water. Do we have a plan in terms of the workshop to actually have a look at those vehicles, maintain them, change oil, etc., that needs to be done in dips, and a plan to look after our vehicles?
The private tractors that are slowly being sent back out to people are making sure that they're getting serviced and tidied up. Our tractors will then want to go back in service in the same fashion. And what we're discovering is that every second Toyota needs an alternator replaced. Even mine has started to be slow at starting. And that's what we're discovering with our Toyotas, that there's a problem in the water, even if it's got a snorkel. But, the normal service within the engine. Apart from that, replacement, a few of them have been replaced already. Mine's on the list because someone just said yours is ready to go.
A routine, there's always Hiluxes and vehicles have been driven through a field and are we dealing with them beyond what we would normally do in terms of servicing? I think it's valuable to just recognise they've been through water, let's get them, and others will have a better idea of what needs to be done than I, but let's look after the vehicles, they've had a pretty tough time. Councillor McCloskey.
Through me, so I just note that one item, one of the tender trucks did take some water, did we dunk it, did we?
Yeah. It's an insurance matter.
So it did damage the motor.
Page 30, top of page 30.
Any further comments, questions regarding the works progress report for the fleet and the workshop? Any further? Nothing further, put that, all those in favour, against, carried. Moving on to item 4 of the Business Manager of Engineering Service report regarding the disaster risk reduction grant that was funded regarding pertaining to the Dragon Gully Causeway. Someone happy to move that recommendation to accept the grant? Thank you, Councillor Kinsey. Second, Councillor Whiteley. Councillor Kinsey.
Very well done to make an application for the grant in the first place. It's a great thing.
Absolutely. The idea of betterment makes such good sense that it's unbelievable that we haven't been there before, despite our protestations.
Well, Queensland got it 2012, and because if you can remember, that cost us 1% or 1.5% increase in their Medicare levy for a few years. And then they realised that what really betterment meant, lots of money to from the Commonwealth, so it stopped. This one here's state government, yeah. But because we're actually applying for some betterment money in the Commonwealth too, aren't we? To this one.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Any further comments, questions regarding item 4, the Main Engineering Services Report? Greg and John. Nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Yes. Carried. Moving on to the reports of the Manager of Health and Development Services. Item 1 being the development application. Is it someone happy to move that information received and noted? Councillor Kinsey. Second. Councillor Whiteley. Councillor Kinsey.
The Nevertire Communications Tower, it's been up for a while, and here we are saying it's good to do it. I had no issues having it put there, and I just wonder what all we're doing is rubber stamping it.
This is not, this is for your information, Councillor.
Fair enough.
This is done under delegated authority.
Yeah.
Yeah, my question would be, Councillor Kinsey, that we've just had a mural on the Nevertire Water Tower, and now we've got a tower right in front of it that detracts from that mural. And this is a question of the Manager of Development, was there not a better site than that?
I don't believe that the question of the site is the issue. The grounds for refusal because of its appearance wouldn't stand up in the Land and Environment Board. That's permitted under the LAP. Yeah. The initial site was out near the sewage treatment plant.
Yeah.
Yep, and the access was the issue. And once they discovered the expense involved to improve that access, then they looked at an alternative site.
Yeah, and that was purchased privately, wasn't it?
Yes, it was, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is unfortunate that it
Yes.
is, yeah, but, yeah.
Councillor Kinsey.
One thing I find disappointing about the tower is only one company can use it. Immediately they put it up there. But you reckon that there's some way we can put a tower up and more than just one company use the damn thing. It's all got to put up with it. Yeah.
Point noted, Councillor Kinsey, I guess something that our federal members been working on and for some time, and just that multi-use of the tower, service provider.
So the development application didn't come from Field Solutions. It was it really from Field Solutions? And not
Yeah, Field Solutions. Yeah.
So, what everyone in Nevertire can do is annoy Telstra, same as I'm doing every month, to actually start paying rent and putting up a base station at Nevertire on the new tower. Because it's Optus, but Optus is only just leasing the use of it, I believe, and Telstra have been offered to do exactly the same thing.
Thank you. So can we do that as a
Beg pardon? I've been doing it for 18 months.
Right.
So, to be clear, the ownership of the tower then is, I believe, Field Solutions. Is that correct?
I believe, look, Mr Mayor, I checked out to look, see who the application isn't in the name of Field Solutions. It was almost like their planning consultant. Is that
Correct.
Correct.
Yes, correct.
And can you say that it really was from Field Solutions or not?
I believe the purchase of
from
the
Optus.
land was Field Solutions Group. Yes.
So for the whole time, Field Solutions were trying to get Telstra to actually come in at the same time. Meaning you just Optus sets up on it, Telstra sets up on it. Same with Palmagudgery, same eventually with Ginging, same eventually with Hatton Reed, Collie, and we just have to keep putting pressure on Telstra to actually say, okay, we're now starting to get towers put up. Can you actually put some Telstra facilities in Nevertire and us having minimal service?
Just a comment, Councillor Kinsey, maybe would be worth talking to Pauline Seedy. She was the one when she was on council that brought this to the council's attention, getting Telstra there. Maybe she can start getting a few of the Nevertire people together to do some letters. Yeah.
There's nothing stopping Telstra from leasing more space.
It's independent owned, it's not Optus owned, that's the point we're making, it's not Optus owned, then there should be room for Telstra to at least part of that town.
I believe that most of the residents of Nevertire think that it belongs to Optus. And I still think you're putting it into that.
We're 90% certain of that, Councillor Kinsey, because that's been the Field Solutions thing long ago. They've got 5 or 6 locations that they're setting up. They're into data, but they were asked both Optus and Telstra to come on board with them for telecommunications. Optus have said yes, Telstra is ignoring them.
Thank you.
Some they ignore us.
Right.
And we need to get in pretty quickly before the obligations of the legislation in the country disappear. And like any good company, it only wants to go places where they want to make money.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions regarding item 1 of Senator Temple?
Just slightly different tack, but obviously the zoning around LLEP and stuff like that. Is there in development applications assessment a visual amenity of you're changing the visual aspect of our towns and villages by accepting something that might impact the visual or the neighbourly, like shadowing, or there'd be a million things in our application process.
Yes, it is part of the assessment process. Yeah. Yep.
So, in this case, was there any community consultation of that tower at that spot?
Yes, there was. Yes.
For the village?
Yes.
Would have been to adjacent neighbours.
Yes. As per our community awareness policy.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions regarding item 1? If nothing further, put that all those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to item 2, the works progress report, Health and Development Services Manager. Someone happy to move item 2, the information received and noted. Councillor Bruce, second. Councillor Jackson, thank you.
Yes, just a question. Any idea when the UMR Waste Depot may be open and progress on the transfer station, obviously?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, throughout the fund we have been in communications with the EPA and how to get the UMR waste facility back accessible and online. We are to do some water testing to determine if that water is considered contaminated and what treatment options are necessary if it is deemed contaminated. The transfer station was subject to the racecourse pathway being finished around the equestrian centre. However, given the current access issue with the localised flooding of the site, I don't believe that that would be able to be started prior to us sorting out the flooding situation.
And just another question, so there's a levee around the waste depots, so how did all that water get in there?
Through Unison, we droned the site, and it was also confirmed on site that there was a low section on the southeast corner. Southeast corner, if I've got my orientation correct.
So that's this side, isn't it?
Yeah. So towards Chris Atkins' premise end or Paringa end corner. Yeah.
So that's north east. There's the highway. There's what's the name? There's the hole. That's that corner. Wouldn't that be northeast?
No. So I'm saying southeast.
Southeast down
That
here.
corner. Yes.
So
the floodwater came into the site there, as well as the other location that you're talking about, as well as the other location.
And we blocked that off
Yes.
with our excavator.
Yes, so there was actually two locations where the water came into the waste facility.
And then, look, it certainly, by the looks, don't forget it went 9.772. The wall around sort of new street works is, I think, the same height as there. 11, that's okay, but out there was only half of that, wasn't it?
Yes.
And so one of the things we will look at is see if we're getting some funding, make sure it's getting better. But even the levee is slushy. Didn't we get our front loader bogged in the levee?
Yeah.
So there's the entrance into the thing, and we got our front end loader bogged in the levee. So it's not really very secure.
I think, again, I might be wrong, the members who move rumble model.
And just saying, it's a kind of a half levee, much like.
Yeah, that red country with that four piece in there.
So there's a small chance we might be able to get some funding for levee improvement. We just hope that what we're hoping is that the water that's in there is only just stained because of the trees, and that it's just deoxified, and that's the stain that's in there, and that really it's just looks. I would have liked to try to be pumping it out before all the water disappeared to dilute everything, but let's hope that's what the results come up, that it's just getting better and stained from the gum tree stuff. What do you think about the water in the pit though? I mean, really, leachate is not in the same order as some of the large garbage depots.
Yeah. So our first option is to empty out the on-site stormwater dam and pump it to there and let it evaporate on site. That way it's contained on site. The other option is to tanker it to the old sewage treatment plant and treat it there. So ideally we want to keep it on
Pump
site.
everything out except the pit, pump into the stormwater hole, and just let it evaporate 11 millimetres a day.
Sounds right.
It'll happen, it's done then. So,
So there'll be a bit of work to do on the road, access road in there too.
Flood
obviously. Yeah, it's all part of
I
that.
think Beck took photos of before we touched it, and now it's happened again. We took photos.
Thank you.
And let's get, I think, the EPA, we should be targeting the EPA for some help with funding a levy around that so that we prevent the problem if we can, as much as possible. The EPA should be a helpful organisation, I would hope there.
Of course they are.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments regarding item 2, the Manager Health and Development Facilities report?
Just another
Councillor
one,
Lewis,
we just more with the animal shelter is, around town on the loose, and I'm just wondering how many of those actually contact the ranger to report that they're out and about. Do you know that? Or whether they're just putting it on social media?
Through you, do follow the proper channels of reporting it to council, rant on Facebook, because they're addressing it through council already. Yeah, so the proper process is to contact council at the office. That way we can record the information. If it's an ongoing issue, then we can monitor it and, apply resources where necessary.
Okay. Need a bit of community out there to report it. Well, they should know.
Exactly, we have arranged for that very purpose, and it would be, it's fairly visible.
Yeah.
I think there's no reason why proper inquiries can't be made by people. I don't quite understand that. That's all. Yeah, thank you. Any further comments, questions regarding item 2? So, Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, excuse me, Councillor Mayor Quigley. Sorry, I've just got a tooth problem in case I'm doing that. I just had a question regarding the installation of the sound system and mixer and external speakers into the sporting centre. Will that be completed by Australia Day, 26th January?
I'll have to take that on notice. I can't give you a definite answer, sorry.
It's outside.
No.
Oh, I understand. The main problem is outside.
The mixer and everything, yeah, it's all, the whole device, yeah. Councillor Whiteley?
I'm trying to rack my brain for the manager that did comment at the sporting meeting when. I can't confirm it before Christmas, but it was in the immediate future.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I will find out definitely and let everybody know.
Yep, just confirm that it needs to be done and operating, and tested and operating is what we need well and truly for Australia Day. Nothing required this weekend in terms of outside broadcast beyond for the concert is what I'm talking about Sunday.
I believe that the hirer would be in contact with the sports manager and be making those necessary arrangements, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, very good. Thank you. Any further comments, questions regarding item 2? Nothing further. Put that, all those in favour? It's carried. Item 3, the Manager Health and Development Services report regarding the vacation care service. Someone happy to move the recommendation? Councillor Bruce, happy to move that, thank you. Second, Councillor Kinsey. Councillor Bruce.
Yes, moving the recommendation, and it's pretty sad to see this service ceasing because it's been a great thing for children during the holidays, but obviously with all the rules and regulations now, people just aren't wanting to take it on, so it's just pretty sad to see it happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Councillor Bruce, I think the upside is that there are two other organisations running some sort of programs, the library and youth services. So it's not the gaping hole that it may well have been a couple of years ago. So yeah, that's a potential upside. Yeah, that's when you look at the numbers there and the difficulties recruiting staff and the onerous paperwork that has to go in, I think it's a decision that's sensible. Any comments, questions? Sorry, Councillor Bosky? No. Comments, questions regarding item 3? Nothing further. We'll put that, all those in favour? Against, carried. There are no notice of motion or questions with notice. We have no matters of urgency unless someone has something to bring to the table immediately. There are no confidential matters. We conclude the meeting. We can hope that the next meeting is on the 25th of January. It's a Wednesday before Australia Day. It's a Wednesday before Australia Day. Thank you all. Get the meeting closed.